Howdy, roofers, and welcome to Roofer Growth Hacks, the podcast that's dedicated to highlighting those in the roofing industry, learning how they overcame growth challenges with creative growth hacks, and connecting them with others in the roofing industry. I'm your host, Chris Hunter, founder and chief marketing officer of roofingsites.com. I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Digital Marketing for Roofers. Well, I got a little story for y'all. Todd Dawalt is the founder and CEO of Construction Leading Edge, a consulting firm that helps construction businesses streamline their operations, implement effective systems and processes, improve decision-making, develop leadership skills, and navigate industry challenges, including economic downturns. So be sure to listen up as Todd shares some awesome growth hacks. Well, welcome back, roofers, and thank you so much for coming on here, Todd. I really appreciate you coming on to the Roofer Growth Hacks podcast and sharing your experience with us.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, so let's go ahead and kick this off. And why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, your entrepreneurial journey? Where did you start? Where are you now?
Yeah, my entrepreneurial journey started probably about a little over 20 years ago. It was early 2000s, maybe late 1990s. I was a commercial project manager building hospitals, office buildings for a large GC in the Cincinnati, Ohio, and Central Kentucky market. And I thought, you know what? I'm making these guys a lot of money. I should go out on my own. And I'd always dreamed of building custom homes. I grew up watching This Old House and just loved that and kind of romanticized building houses. So in the late 90s, I started building some spec houses on the side and then made the jump in 2002, lined up enough work and quit my job and went full time, had my own construction business, and very quickly realized that just because I knew how to build stuff did not equip me to be a construction business owner. So very quickly, I ended up doing a lot of stuff I didn't want to do and made a lot of mistakes. If I heard the definition of an expert is somebody who's made more mistakes than the average person. So if I am an expert, it's because of that definition. So I made a lot of mistakes, didn't understand the business side of running a construction business, grew too fast, didn't have the right systems in place, didn't understand the financials, didn't understand cash flow. And after about 3 years of making a lot of mistakes, I shut it down, went back to work, and went back into commercial project management and ended up doing that until about 2018. And so I guess I spent about 15 years working for other companies and then started my business I started in 2014 when I started my podcast, the Construction Leading Edge podcast. And that started off as a side gig, passion project, and turned into the business that it is today. And we help construction business owners systematize their business and eliminate chaos and that sort of thing. So that's my journey. It started off once, I had to put it on the back burner and then go back to work for 12 or 15 years, learn the stuff that I thought I didn't need to know the first time around. And here we are now.
So I assume all that stuff that you obviously you've learned all of that stuff that you didn't know, right? What would you say is the most valuable piece that you did learn, right, through the school of hard knocks there?
Cash flow.
Yeah.
Cash flow. It doesn't matter how profitable you are. It doesn't matter how much you sell. Nothing matters if your cash flow is off. If you don't understand how to manage cash flow, nothing else matters. And I learned that the hard way.
Yeah. Did something prompt that? Like when you say you learned the hard way, can you tell us a little bit about that?
When I shut down my first business, it's because I assumed if you sold work profitably, I made a few assumptions. One, I assumed if you sold work profitably, you would be okay. I assumed people would pay you.
Yeah.
That was a bad assumption.
Yeah.
And I just assumed things would kind of take care of themselves. I guess it was kind of a field of dreams type belief system. Like if you build it, they will come. If you build it, the customers will come and it will all take care of itself. And it doesn't take care of itself. And then I learned it again in about 2012 or so. I was brought in to run a company, a construction company. And I remember it very vividly. There was a day I was driving back from a meeting, and Heather, who took care of accounting, called me and said, Todd, we're not going to be able to make payroll in 2 weeks if we don't get some checks in here. And tightness in the chest, slight panic because we had about 15 employees. Ooh. And I didn't realize we had a problem. It wasn't really I thought that the owner was taking care of this, and clearly he wasn't. So that's when I stepped in, started figuring out, all right, what's the problem here? What are the root causes behind cash flow crunch? What do we have to do to stay out of it? Because I hate cash flow crunch. I hate that feeling of how are we going to make payroll? Talking to vendors and subs saying, look, I'm doing the best I can, but I can't pay you right now. And that is, it affects your sleep. It affects everything, and it sucks. So I learned very quickly, I don't ever want to be in that situation again. So learned that's what the school of hard knocks looked like for me when it came to cash flow.
Yeah, I totally get that. And that's a hard conversation to have with and I've been there for employees too. That's a really hard conversation to have with employees, and definitely is something that keeps you up at night for sure. Wake up in the middle of the night just in panic sometimes thinking about stuff like that, and I agree, you definitely don't want to be in that position. So how did you get out of that situation, and how are you keeping out of that? How do you coach keeping out of that at this point?
Yeah. So going back to 2012, I started digging into the root cause, and I asked why. Why is this happening? And I learned this framework called the 5 whys method for root cause analysis. And it's pretty simple. You ask, okay, why does our cash flow suck? Mm-hmm. Why don't we have enough cash? And you come up with a reason. And in that case, it was, well, we're not getting paid on time. Okay, why aren't we getting paid on time? Well, it's because we're submitting pay requests that don't have all of the information. Okay, why are we doing that? Well, it's because of this underlying reason and this underlying reason. And then one of the reasons was we're just not productive enough. Well, why aren't we productive enough? Well, it's because the guys don't know what to do, or they're focusing on the wrong things. And it was all of this jumbled up mess of reasons that I just dug through and then started prioritizing them and solving them. And I remember having a conversation with the owner one day, and I asked him a question I don't think he'd ever thought about. And I said, all right, Richard, how much, because he managed, I'll use that term loosely, the financials. How much do we need every month to make this work? How much revenue do we need to bring in every month to make this work? And he thought for a while, and he came up with a number. And in that case, it was $480,000. And I said, got it. So if we bring in $480,000 every month, we're going to be good, right? Yes. So I started doing what I call scheduling for revenue, which is a different way of thinking. I would schedule for revenue. And I developed this term that I call right to left thinking. So right to left thinking means let's go out to the right side of the page. And in that case, ask the question, all right, how much revenue do we need every month? We have our labor costs, we have equipment costs, we have overhead. These are all fixed. Mm-hmm. They're not going anywhere. So how much revenue do we need to bring in to cover our overhead, cover our cost of goods, cover our labor, and make some profit? Came up with that number. And then we started working from right to left. Okay. Mm-hmm. How much do we need to do every week? How much do we need to do every day per crew? And we came up with, I set up these daily revenue targets for each crew based on what they were doing. So some crews, small crews, their target was $4,000 in revenue a day. Some large crews doing complex stuff with lots of materials, $20,000 a day. And everybody got focused on revenue. And once we got everybody focused on revenue, then we started generating the revenue, and the productivity went up. And we started asking questions like, what would it take to do $4,000 in revenue a day? What would it take for you to do $20,000? And that we continued to work right to left. And we started thinking, okay, well, this is what we need to do today. Then we need to plan further in advance. We need to make sure we don't have any gaps in the schedule. And we started thinking further out. And then it even drove into the sales process. Well, how much work do we need to have lined up in order to be able to do this revenue? So that's really when things changed. And we went in 2012, the business was probably doing $4 million in revenue. Not really sure. We had about 15 employees. And by the time I left at the end of 2014, we were doing $11 million in revenue. We had about 50 employees, and the profit margins had tripled.
Interesting.
So, yeah. And I attributed a lot of that success to starting with the end in mind. Or right to left thinking. I heard one of our clients has a friend who is a military helicopter pilot, and he used a phrase that stuck with me. He said, "We compel events to meet the plan." That's what the military does. Mm-hmm. So you come up with the end outcome, the desired outcome you want, and then you compel events to meet the plan. And that's very different from how a lot of small businesses, especially small construction businesses, operate. Mm-hmm. Most of them operate from left to right. They just think, well, I'll do the best we can with what we've got, and we'll see how it all shakes out. Mm-hmm. It's more of a wait and see approach, which in my experience turns out with a lot more waiting and a lot less seeing. So yeah, I would say that's what I would attribute a lot of that success to, is switching to a right to left approach, scheduling for revenue and driving things, getting into the driver's seat and driving things forward.
Love that. Absolutely love that. So why don't you tell me a little bit about, all right, your coaching business? Is this kind of things that you coach now?
Yeah, we have a program called Systematize Your Construction Business. Maybe not that clever of a name, but it's, when I thought about naming it, I thought, well, what are we doing here? What are we going to call this? Well, let's just call it Systematize Your Construction Business. So that's what we do. And we've helped somewhere north of 300 construction businesses over the past 6 years put these systems in place. So a lot of this it starts with right to left thinking. We have to change the mindset and start thinking with the end in mind. And really that's answering the question that's surprisingly difficult to answer, which is, what do you want?
Yeah.
So typically when I ask that to a construction business owner, what do you want? They'll start telling me what they don't want. Well, I don't want this. I don't want a lot of employees. I don't want a lot of headaches. I don't want phone calls. I don't want this and that. Like, well, okay, that's great. But what do you want?
Yeah.
Because you can not want a whole lot of stuff, and that's not going to help you get where you want. So what do you want? Let's start with the end in mind. Well, where do you want to be in 5 years? You're going to bust your ass and put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this business. Let's make sure it's going somewhere you want it to go. And we call that creating your performance specifications for your business. What do you want this business to do for you? Profitability, lifestyle, impact on other people. What do you want it to do for your kids and your grandkids? Let's take the long-term view. That's the first step. And then the second step is, let's design your business to run in a way that it will create those results. Let's create a strategic blueprint for your business. How is it going to run? We think about a construction business like a machine, right? So if somebody hired Chris and Todd, the Chris and Todd manufacturing business, and said, we want you guys to build a machine for us, one of the first questions we would ask is, okay, what is this machine going to produce? Are we making ice cream sandwiches? Are we making iPhone covers, toothpicks? What's it going to make? And then the second question is, how much is it going to produce? And we need to do the same thing for a construction business. What do you want this thing to produce for you? What are the results you want from your business, and how much of it? And then begin to design that. So that's really where we start, is that right to left thinking. And a lot of people skip that step all together, and they just get right to work and start, well, we're just going to crank out projects, and we're going to live in the projects and sell a project, build a project, sell a project, build a project. And then they look up 5 years down the road and they haven't really gone anywhere.
Yeah.
Just kind of wandered around. So that's where we start. And then we help them put some crucial systems in place to eliminate the chaos, improve profits. And there's 3 words that we're really big on. It's freedom, impact, and wealth. So we help people have more freedom in their business and also create more freedom for their employees. And we help them have more impact because they can grow their business and have a positive impact on more customers, more team members, on their community, on their family. And when you have more freedom and you have more impact and your business is running well, you have more profits, then you can generate wealth. And we're talking about generational, long-term, trajectory-changing wealth.
Yeah.
That's what we're about.
Absolutely. Love that. Kind of reminds me of one of the videos that floats around on YouTube, I am the one, where he talks about, I'm the one in my family, in every generation, there's someone in your family that is, the one that has changed the trajectory, of not only your life, but everybody, your whole family and generations after. Yeah.
Yeah. And as entrepreneurs, we have that opportunity to be the one who changes the trajectory of our family. But that requires a 100-year perspective. Let's think about what do we want we ask the question of our clients, like, what do you want your legacy to be? What does financial freedom look like for your grandkids? And work right to left back into, okay, what do you need to be doing now with your machine that is your business to get there? And that really helps clarify a lot of things. A lot of the clouds and the distractions go away, because when you have a 5-year vision, when you have a 100-year vision, when these little distractions come along, it becomes very clear, like, that's not going to help me achieve my 5-year vision. It's definitely not going to help me achieve my 100-year vision. And then when the right opportunities do come along, like, that's going to help me get there. I need to go all in on that and say no to everything else.
Yeah, and I agree on that. I mean, as entrepreneurs, we have the opportunity to create something out of nothing, right? I mean, literally, that's what we do. But a lot of us, and I include myself on this, and I've had self-realization of that. I'm a visionary, right? I'm a visionary type, and I sometimes visionaries have the tendency to, one shiny object to another, or one vision to another vision, without the focus, though, on the one main thing, right? And it happens to the best of us. I completely see that all the time.
Yeah.
And asking that question, right, I think is so key. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be? And I think that having that long-term vision, that 100-year vision, I've never even thought about that. I've thought about, okay, what do I personally want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now? Right. But not, where do I see this having an impact on my great grandkids?
Yeah. I think for a lot of us, and I was guilty of this, we think about retirement, right?
Yeah.
Especially if we started out working for somebody else. It's like, in America, the dream is to retire. And if you retire with enough money to take care of yourself, live out the rest of your retirement. I've worked with guys who knew how many years, months, and days they had until retirement in the corporate world, which I think is very annoying.
Yeah.
Because, like, what are you going to do when you retire? For one, if you're an entrepreneur, retirement is probably kind of scary.
Yeah.
Because you have no purpose, you have no mission, like, you have no problems to solve. I saw a quote the other day. This guy is in mergers and acquisitions. And he said, this was on Twitter. He said, we offered a guy $115 million for his business. And he said no. And when we asked him why, he said, because all of my friends who sold their businesses to go play golf are all dead now.
Wow.
So that's scary. And I've seen it in people who've retired, people who've sold their businesses, sold the farm, whatever the case may be. When they have no purpose, they just kind of wither away. But a lot of us are like, we think a long-term focus is retirement. How do I make sure I don't run out of money in retirement? But what we should be thinking is, how do we create a machine that generates wealth and freedom for our kids and their kids and their kids? Think like the Vanderbilts and the wealthy families. They created generational wealth that has lasted 10, 20 generations in some case. And that's a different mindset.
Yeah.
But that's what we try to focus on, is as entrepreneurs, we have the opportunity to create generational wealth and freedom for our kids and grandkids, and set it up in a way that those future generations have the options and the freedom to do things that we did.
Absolutely. And that's such a powerful thing. I love that. And I was actually watching a YouTube video the other day. Of course, we all watch YouTube videos on all this on business, and I'm a business geek, so I'd like to study how businesses are run really well, right? And but anyways, this was a video about the Rockefellers and how they have created generational wealth more than, you brought up the Vanderbilts, more than the Vanderbilts have, because they keep all of their generational wealth into a trust. And as each generation comes along, they just simply loan the money, and they have to pay that back on their death, right? Into the trust. So it's just a different mindset, right? Mm-hmm. Way different mindset of how we are building businesses, right? So let me ask, right? We entrepreneurs, we get in our own way. All business owners. I haven't met a single business owner out there that doesn't get in their own way, right? Me included. What advice would you give to those people that you do see getting in their way? Like, and especially if you're a new roofing company owner listening to this, you want to build a business that sustains your lifestyle and your grandkids and great grandkids' lifestyle. But where do you even start with that?
So I have some controversial advice for people who are thinking about starting a business. So if you're thinking about starting a business, I'll give you some advice. If you're early on in your business, I'll give you some different advice. But when people say, Todd, what's your best advice? I'm thinking about starting my own business. My best advice is don't.
Yeah.
And this goes back to some of the best advice that I received that I ignored back in 1997. I worked for a guy named Martin Pfister. He owned a construction business, was very successful. And he'd started his own business, and brilliant guy, one of the smartest guys I've ever worked for. He said, Todd, never start your own company. Go find somebody who's been at it for 30 or 40 years. They're in the sunset years of their business. They want to transition it. Go find somebody like that. Figure out some way to take over the business over the course of a few years, learn the business, buy the reputation. It's win-win. It helps them, it helps you, but never start your own business. Of course, I ignored that advice and started my own business. So first of all, if you're thinking about, like most people, like, I'm entrepreneurial, I want to start my own business, that is the hardest route to take. Okay. And there are so many people who are 30 years ahead of you who have built incredible equity, but they don't have a plan on what to do with it. So they're just going to fade out their business, and all of that wealth is going to go away. All of that institutional knowledge and relationships and the team, it's going to go away. And you're going to have to ramp it all up and start from scratch. So go find those people and figure out some way to transition the business. It's win-win, and it reduces the risk dramatically.
Love that.
So that's my not so conventional advice for that. If you're early in your career, if you've started your business and you're like, oh crap, it's too late for me, I've already started my business, then my advice for you is design your business to run without you. This is a big mistake that most construction business owners make. is everybody should read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber and understand the difference between a technician and an entrepreneur. A technician owns a job, an entrepreneur owns a business. So you need to design your business in a way that runs without you. So I heard somebody say, billionaires are incompetent. I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. Billionaires are incompetent. And he went on to explain, if a billionaire owns a high-end restaurant and the chef quits, the billionaire is not going to say, you know what, I bet I can go in there and cook. I can just do it myself.
Yeah.
Billionaire recognizes I'm incompetent. One, if I go in there and try to cook, I'm incompetent. It's not going to go well. It's going to hurt the business. And I'm going to spend all my time cooking meals and I'm not going to be able to do CEO stuff. Yeah. Somebody who thinks they're competent at something, like most construction business owners, will say, you know what? I can do that. I can go climb up on a roof every once in a while. I can go pick up materials. I can go do my own bookkeeping. Yeah. I can figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's that entrepreneurial spirit that gets you started. But what you've got to realize is what got you to a certain point is not going to get you to the next level. So you've got to kind of extinguish that. I could do that myself. Yeah. I'm competent. And you need to become consciously or intentionally incompetent at things and stop thinking, well, how can I do this myself? And you need to figure out somebody else to do that.
Yeah. And train that person and get that person to do that. Right.
Design your business to run without you. Because when you design your business to run without you, number one, if something happens to you in 2 weeks, your business will continue. But if your business is designed to fail without you, if you die in 2 weeks, then your business goes away.
Yeah.
And that leaves your family in a mess. It leaves your team in a mess. It leaves your customers in a mess because your business just ceases to exist. If you design your business to run without you, then you can actually sell it one day. But a business that's designed around the owner is unsellable. It has zero value to a buyer because a buyer isn't looking to buy a job.
Yeah.
They want to buy an asset that generates profit for them. And if they do the math and they subtract the owner from the equation, they realize there's no value here. This gal is doing all the selling, all the project managing, the scheduling, they're writing checks. This thing falls apart when the owner goes away. So design your business to run without you. That would be my best advice, because a lot of the people we work with have unintentionally designed a business to fail without them for years. And they come to us to help rectify that. So if you can start from day one with that in mind, it's going to save you a lot of headache and a lot of frustration.
And to add on to that, my coach tells me to have my next 3 hires in mind, like know exactly who we're going to hire my next 3, right? That I need to get off of my plate to buy back my time, So yeah, totally 100% agree with that. Well, Todd, these are super, super valuable knowledge bombs that you're dropping here. This is super cool. I can geek out about this stuff all day long, but we're going to be heading into our lightning round. But before we do that, let's pause here for a message from our sponsor, roofingsites.com. Since 2018, roofingsites.com has helped roofers double their sales by getting their marketing right using the 4R roofing marketing system. If you're a roofing company owner wanting to grow your business, be sure to go to roofingsites.com and sign up for a roofing marketing strategy session with me. Okay, we're back for the lightning round. We've got one rule here for the lightning round. You have 1 minute or less to answer each one of these questions. You ready, Todd?
Fire away.
Awesome. All right. So, Todd, what is your favorite personal hack? This could be a book, a podcast, pretty much anything goes here as long as it is a hack.
I would say my favorite personal hack is gratitude. I spend 15 minutes a day, the beginning of my day, writing down things I'm grateful for. Because what I found is I am hardwired with a scarcity mindset and to find stuff that's going wrong. Yeah. And that's the way I go naturally. So I have to intentionally focus on what I'm grateful for, what's going well. And that puts me in the right frame of mind. And if I don't do that for a couple of days, I feel it. So that's my favorite personal hack.
Love that. And do you have just a personal or a gratitude hack journal that you're journaling in?
Stacks of them.
Nice. Love that. Love that. And I've heard that before. Don't personally do it, but I need to, because I've heard that from several successful entrepreneurs.
It's a game changer, especially for entrepreneurs and that emotional roller coaster. It's a game changer.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. Next question. What is your favorite business hack? Again, this, anything goes here, book, podcast, whatever.
Business hack. I would say it's a book. Okay. It's the book called Who Not How by Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. And it is I thought it was a concept at first, but it's really more of a philosophy that is game changing for entrepreneurs. So the short version of it is most of us think, how am I going to solve this problem? How am I going to do this? And a better question is, who can help me solve this? Who can help me achieve this? And it just switches on something in your brain that opens up a whole new world.
And it goes back to that billionaire question, right? Of if what you illustrated earlier, he's asking who can now take over as chef of that restaurant, not how can I do that?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Todd, what is the best advice that you've been given, and bonus points if you let us know how you actually applied it?
Well, I already shared the best advice I didn't listen to. Best advice I've been given and how have I applied it? I would say what comes to mind is ask more questions or ask better questions. So in our coaching business, what I found when coaching people in selling and negotiating, ask more questions. Ask more better questions.
Yeah.
Probably more, better questions. But most people immediately go into making statements and telling people what they know and what they think they should do. Ask questions. Ask more questions. You should ask twice as many questions as you make statements. And trust me, in selling, negotiating, coaching people, conflict resolution, whatever, it's going to go a lot better if you ask more better questions.
Love that. Yeah. And I 100% agree with that.
And you'll be a better conversationalist too.
Yeah.
And for you guys out there, your wives will love it. Let me give you a question. How did that make you feel? Just use that. Try it. How did that make you feel, baby? Oh. Just watch what she says.
I think that's the best hack of them all right there.
That's it. That's it right there. I heard those words come out of my mind, out of my mouth 15 years ago. And I was like, whoa, that's incredible. Where did that come from? I'm going to write that down and use that one again.
Yeah. Love that. Absolutely love that. And don't let my wife listen to this because I'm absolutely using that. All right. Well, Todd, how can the Roofer Growth Hacks family get in touch with you? How can we support you and encourage you moving forward?
Yeah, great question. You can check out the Construction Leading Edge podcast. We have 350 or so episodes, lots of interviews with construction business owners, industry experts. It's out there on just about every podcast player in the world. You can go to constructionleadingedge.com and if you want to systematize your business, if you want to design your business to run without you, if you want to have more freedom, more impact, and more wealth, then you can go to constructionleadingedge.com, click on the apply button, and schedule a business evaluation call with my team. We'll evaluate your business, help you identify some hidden profit bleeds, find out the answer to one big question, and then map out a plan for you to help you systematize your construction business.
Love it. Love it. Absolutely love that, Todd. Well, thank you so much, so much for coming on the Roofer Growth Hacks podcast. We really, really appreciate you sharing all of your knowledge and expertise.
My pleasure. Thanks for what you're doing, Chris. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, how about that, roofers? Is that pretty awesome or what? I know that I wrote down several pages of notes here in my notebook. Some of my biggest takeaways, though, from that entire conversation was, first one, the 5 whys framework. I loved that, right? And that's something that I could see being used in sales as well as interacting with your employees, possibly even clients. your customers, digging down to the whys of whatever is going through people's head. I love that, right? Just keep asking okay, well, why, does that affect you, or why are you trying to achieve that? I think that's great. Next one, I wrote down here, schedule for revenue. I loved how he talked about working right to left. Okay, so basically working backwards, right? If you want your revenue to be, let's say, $1 million, and I do this exercise with clients all the time, right? Is that if you work backwards from $1 million, how many sales do you need to get each month? And in order to get that amount of sales, how many opportunities do you need in your pipeline? And if you need that many opportunities in your pipeline, how many leads do you need in order to get to there? And in order to get to that amount of leads, how much do you need to spend to get that amount of leads that you need? Right. And where do you need to be advertising? Right. And that's usually where I guide people. Obviously, that's Google, in my opinion. Right. But I love the whole idea there of working, right to left, work backwards from where you want to be a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years, 10 years, wherever that you want to be. Write that as your goal, your big, hairy, audacious goal. I talk about this all the time, right? And work backwards from there. What do you need to do in order to achieve those results? Well, that's going to do it for another episode of Roofer Growth Hacks. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and that you connect with Todd on Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever that he is. He's everywhere. Also, he's got a podcast as well. Go look up his podcast at Construction Leading Edge, right? And go listen to it. I think that would be an excellent idea. Also, while you're out there, why don't you connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram or YouTube or wherever that you're watching this or listening to this. You can also check our website at roofingsites.com. And while you're there, you can listen to other previous episodes. I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, roofingsites.com. Since 2018, roofingsites.com has helped roofers double their sales by getting their marketing right using the 4R marketing system. If you're a roofing company owner wanting to grow your business, be sure to go to roofingsites.com and sign up for a roofing marketing strategy session with me. Also, this past year, I published my book, The Ultimate Guide to Digital Marketing for Roofers. If you're a roofing company owner and you don't have this book in your hands, I'll send it to you for free. Just go to go.roofingsites.com and I'll send you a free digital copy of my book. Well, roofers, join me next time when we connect with another great roofing entrepreneur and learn how they hack their growth. Until then, I'm Chris Hunter. Thanks and gig 'em.